Hello and welcome to How to Play SFJ. This is episode 5, the final chapter of How to Play Soviets. In this episode, we're going to talk about economy and the naval arsenal for the Soviets. So let's just get underway. May I draw your attention here to the income? It's stagnant. When I deploy my MCV, it starts going up. So your MCV counts as about half of an oil. Only when deployed, though. When it's undeployed, it's not. Alright, so let's increase the game speed. So the other thing that acts like an oil is the ore refinery here. The ore refinery counts as about 1/5 of an oil. You can see it's going up very slow. This is on super fast mode, so it's very slow, but if maybe it's a low resource situations, both players are kind of at a stalemate, you can potentially try to get a lead by pumping ore refineries late game. Alright, so let's talk about the miner here. The miner is a little bit cheaper than normal, so you can generally get more of these than normal. In SFJ, I think a good tip is you generally want more war factories than normal, relative to how many ore refineries you build, if you can help it. Miners are slightly harder to kill as well. What this does is it makes games have a higher chance, a higher probability of comeback potential. So the games can get really dynamic, really interesting in many ways because of that. Let's see here. Let's make a naval yard. Miners aren't the best scouts, are they? Speaking of scouts, we didn't talk about this in the previous video. This is the polar bear. Alright. This is for scouting, nothing more. It's the polar bear and not the dog because identity, the Soviets are unique, they have their own things. The Allies are unique, they have their own things. Yuri's unique, they have their own things. This is your scout unit, it's not your main fodder unit. The main fodder units are skill-based units, not luck-based units, namely the Tesla Trooper and Desolator. We spoke about that in the previous video. Alright, so when you make a naval yard, you have the option here to make a different kind of miner. You can see it has the Chrono Miner tag here, the cameo. It says Hover Monkey. And let's build one. Again, it doesn't move this fast. I'm in skirmish right now, and it's on super fast mode just to demonstrate the idea here. This is an amphibious miner. Alright, so the purpose of this is to compete with the Allied mobility on maps like this and hybrid maps. And so the Soviets, they can't move their MCV and chrono all their miners to one side, but what they can do is don't have to move their MCV and can still mine ore on islands and so on. So you can imagine a number of different places you would use this. 20B comes to mind, right? So let's make some naval, shall we? And we'll end it there. So this is your squid. Alright, let me just get all the stuff up here. This is the squid. View this as the Rhino tank in the sea. I'll change the game speed back down to normal levels, I suppose. This is the Rhino tank in the sea. It shoots. Alright, it shoots land as well. Right? I guess it doesn't reach that. Shoots land as well. It's basically the Rhino tank in the oceans. It does not parasite units. So what the purpose for this is, in Soviet versus Soviet in base game, a lot of the times, you'll get a battle lab up, they'll get a battle lab up, and both players make a squid, and there's no naval fight. Because if you make a dreadnought, it's almost always going to be a waste of money, right? It just gets parasitized by the squid. End of story. No, in SFJ, you're always going to be fighting. Always going to be fighting. That's the point of all the units being the way they are, so that you can battle. So this is the Rhino tank in the sea. Good way to look at it. The Typhoon attacks up is essentially your Tesla tank in the sea, right? It's your upgraded squid. And when I say Tesla tank in the sea, of course, I mean literally the Tesla tank in the sea. This also shoots land as well. Has a bit more range. Does good damage, as you can see. Very powerful. It's invisible. right? It's still on, you can use this in a lot of strategic ways on even on maps you wouldn't expect, right? You have some subs sitting on the shoreline, they drive by, boom, it's so satisfying to surprise them. And you may be wondering to yourself, well, Frank, if I have a Rhino tank in the sea and I have a Tesla tank in the sea, shouldn't I have a howitzer in the sea?
Construction complete. New construction options.
And of course you do. Here it is, the howitzer in the sea, quite literally. And the Trinity is on the oceans as well. So the Tesla tank counters the Rhino tank, right? The howitzer counters the Tesla tank, right? And the squid counters the howitzer, right? So all three of these units are relevant in the oceans. You want all three generally.
Building.
Right, so next we'll talk about the amphibious transport.
Building.
This is
Training.
a lot more useful than the base game,
Unit
amphibious
ready.
transport. First of all, it shoots,
Unit ready.
right? Second of all, it has a lot more hit points. It has, I think, double the hit points or something like that. It's a lot. So it's a lot more tankier. You can use it on even land maps where there's like a lake. You can put it down. If you have the money, start pumping these for fodder. Very useful. It also can fit a lot more units than normal. So typically in RE2 or Uris, it can fit only 4 rhinos, but in SFJ, it can fit 5 rhinos and an infantry unit as well. So a lot more useful. There's situations where, you might be dead essentially, right? You have no MCV, no war factory, no barracks. But if you have a naval yard, and they have a couple structures somewhere, you can still potentially win that game by building amphibious transports and going and taking it out. Right? Alright, Sea Scorpion is the anti-air unit, nothing crazy. Slightly better versus ground targets, but that's really the only difference. And last, but certainly not least, is the Dreadnought. It is your grand, premier, elite unit for the Soviet arsenal, land and sea. This is the strongest unit that you have as a Soviet player.
Yes, Commander.
The only thing in the game that can rival it is the aircraft carrier from the Allies. It is better than the Boomer, boys. It is literally better than the Boomer. Okay? Its range is increased by a nice little chunk. Okay? It has better... Well, this is super fast mode. Let's fix that. Okay? Its movement is better, right? Its turn rate is significantly faster. It has more hit points. Okay? So all of its stats are better. But what makes it the most powerful unit in the game is it auto-shoots like the V3 rocket. So if there are units anywhere within its range, it will just start shooting rockets at them. So this has uses on maps where anywhere where you can place a naval yard. All right? So the ultimate Soviet unit, the Dreadnought, lives up to the name. And I hope these videos have been helpful for you. This concludes the How to Play SFJ Soviet series. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more.